Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Live Your Dreams podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gawalis, alongside my co-host,
Chris Victor.
Chris. Today, we are diving into the world of an incredibly multifaceted artist who shows us that the world can truly be seen through their amazing creative vision. Saam Gabbay is a photographer, filmmaker, and composer whose work bends reality with imagination, humor, and heart. I have to tell you, he is an incredibly impressive individual. We got to talk pre-show, and within the first 10 seconds, I said to myself, I like this guy. He's worked for some incredible companies, BMW, Lego, and more. And there's even a rumor out there that he's been called the best over-the-shoulder photographer the business has to offer because he has captured some breathtaking images with what his clients call a ninja-like presence.
Oh, man, I love it.
Ego-free, and laser focus. He truly makes work shine. Whether he's reframing identities, imagining creativity, or just on the lookout for adventure, Sam reminds us that art and life are meant to be playful, passionate, and full of wonder. Sam, thank you so much for coming.
Oh my God, Joe, I'm gonna I think there's an app where you can record like a affirmation or something.
That's fantastic.
I'm like, dude, I am gonna loop that every morning to dark voices.
If the podcast was worth that alone, it's worth it to us, right? You wake up, you play that in the morning, so you
what
know.
have I done to deserve this? Yeah, that was awesome.
Doing something today. That's it. That's it. It's okay. Why not? That makes it work. I'll be the voice on your shoulder. But no, truly, Sam, your career really is truly fascinating. And what's great about you is not only yourself and your amazing attitude on life, but you have touched so many aspects of the creative spectrum. I mean, really, from behind the camera, all different kind of looks of life and what you're creating. It goes from different avenues that most people couldn't even think to break into, but yet you are so well versed in all of them. Truly impressive.
I'm blessed by the way that you frame it. Because it kind of like doesn't talk about the darkness at all. It's just the gifts, and I'm in for this. I'm in for this. I'll take this subset of reality for now. Yeah.
Look, and again, we all glad you even said it like that, because for our listeners that are breaking in, they mostly only see that surface level, right? It's not surface, but like the beauty of the good that comes with it. But I love that you joked about that a little bit, where you said, you know what, no matter what, there is always going to be some form of struggle when you're breaking in or even in the business. And as creatives, no matter how talented we are, I'm sure all of us, no matter if we're newcomers or people at a high experience level, always go through those moments of self-doubt or what's going on. So that's why at the Live Your Dreams podcast, we try to paint the positive. But it's so important for our listeners to know that even all of us as creatives, we're not always just seeing, the rainbows and the sunshine that are out there.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's so many angles because we're in that part of life where we can give advice. We've seen it a lot. We've seen a lot of things, right? Or certainly me. I think I'm older than all you guys, but
Chris goes, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, there's so many ways to, like, here is a totally left field way to look at this. Totally left field. It might not, who knows, but you can edit this out if it doesn't.
No. We're keeping it in at this point. I mean, it's too much buildup. So,
like, one of the things that I'm noticing, especially living in LA, is so a bunch of people, get anxious, right? Anxiety is so part of this.
Oh, yeah.
And then to balance that, the kind of, let's say, the outer work community starts to really create like a wellness, like this whole like wellness thing, and the wellness thing, the dark side of it is it can kind of like, if you're very driven, they can name call you like, oh, you're, this, or your work-life balance, you're not, and what that does, which a lot of people don't realize, is that it prevents people from testing their edge. Because nothing crazy happens, if you're, as soon as you feel anxious, you do breath work and whatever to kind of quiet it, or grab the phone, which is the worst way. because in a weird way, that anxiety is trying to say something, trying to like animate me, trying to direct my attention towards something.
Hmm.
And if I keep like doing breath work and yoga and meditation, I mean, I won't know what it's trying to tell me. And in a weird way, I think that I became a victim of that. I kept trying to fix the way I was wired and thinking that that was the wrong way because everybody was telling me it was the wrong way. And it turned out to be that that was actually my antenna of what to listen to. So I want to say that, I don't know, how I'm going to, who's going to receive this because we can go into God, we can go into like the collective consciousness,
Sure.
because some people make work, they feel like it's intellectually driven, it really came from their brain. And other people feel like it was like something that was transmitted to them where they're the channel. I've seen them on your show, right? There's
100%.
all
Oh,
these
yeah, no,
different
no, no.
options,
Beyond, beyond. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
right? So the beyond. And so we could take this so many cool places, because for me, if I'm focusing on, let's say the material, like let's go quantum. If we're in the material, then there is like a certain rigidity, but you can predict whatever. But then if I'm in the wave and in the unknown, there's this kind of vast possibility. And whenever I'm too much in the rigid, like really focusing on the nuts and bolts, I can actually get kind of curmudgeony and depressed without knowing it. So there's so many angles we can go.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm really, and thank you for saying that because so many artists do not hear their antenna when it goes off. You're right. They have the anxiety that hits. They don't realize maybe they're being guided to a direction. And the
Yeah.
world tells you this is you don't want to feel that way. So they run from it. And I love that you said that because it's almost like an awakening of maybe you should focus here. Like your mind's going off, your body's telling you something, the universe is telling you something to go down this path to explore more. But so many people turn it off and run from it. I mean, again, all of us know as creators, the first time you're going to go out there to create something, you are going to get some sort of anxiety, no matter how many times you did it, no matter how experienced you are. That first time, even here, the camera rolls, anything
10th,
happens,
100th time.
right? All the time, no matter what.
Yeah.
If you run from it and don't actually embrace it like you said, you are going to miss something. So such well said, really. And what a way to open the episode because it says so much about you that you are not just a creator, Sam. You're a philosophizer in there. You're a philosopher. I love it. And that's great. No, it really, as an artist, you have to be because that's why the art goes somewhere because it's creating beyond just saying, I'm doing this to get a hit on YouTube or a view or to get people to like my Instagram for one little hit. And I'm not knocking any of that because that is part of the world nowadays. But the creativity goes beyond that and is going into what is the driven purpose of who I am. And I love what you just said right there. It really resonates with me because you said, who's that going to resonate with? It did with me. I really appreciate what you said right there.
I also have to add something to that because Sam, I mean, you said you're the oldest one here. You're doing pretty good. You have a good work-life balance. You definitely take care of your health because I'm born in the 60s. You look younger than me, so excellent. Bravo to what you're doing. I mean, I love your advice. I love your philosophy. I'd like to learn more. Like, are you pursuing your dream? Because you seem like you're happy.
Well, you guys make me happy because you're freaking hype machines.
I've been miserable till I came on this show. That's it.
Yeah, right. I mean, like part of me is, can I feed you guys into AI that when you're offline, I would just
That's
have
great.
conversations with you. I mean, that's the next smartest thing to do. Um, I want to answer that in a fun way. So,
Okay.
about like 3 weeks ago, um, part of our culture also is getting coaching and having a spiritual guide and, whatever, because we're all solopreneurs. And in a weird way, that kind of apprenticeship, mentorship, like all of that's gone away.
Mm.
And I had, hired like very, very competent help, very competent. Like one of them was managing an AI company and
Sure.
wanted to be like my, operations manager to manage like what do we do with the archive? And I'm always like thinking if I declutter, life is going to be better. And over a period of 3 months in the trial period, I realized I was getting more and more depressed. And the reason was that it had increased um, my decision debt. I was in debt to her for like all the stuff that I was supposed to now do because she had given me these analyses of what to do next. And then the coach was giving me more homework. And then like the strategy person wanted to charge me another monthly to give me more homework. And one day I was sitting at a coffee shop in Austin, and I was like, okay, well, this is not working because I feel awful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so in that moment, I cleared everyone, like cleared my deck.
Hmm.
I deleted Twitter off, or X off my phone. And I took Huberman's advice, which was to put the phone in the other room when I go to bed. Within 3 days, my sleep cycle self-regulated
Better,
after
yeah.
that. And then the next thing was I had biases about LA, like
Hmm.
LA is this, LA is that. I've been here a long time. And everyone would agree with those biases, but maybe they're not useful. And they were kind of creating a rigidity there. So I grabbed the camera and I start walking around in my neighborhood, just like wanting to have fresh eyes,
Hmm.
and I see these two Turkish twins. I didn't know they're Turkish. But I walk up and I'm like, hey, you guys are, you're matching red hoodies. It was low tide, and the sand had turned into a mirror. We rarely get clouds in LA, and there was
Yep.
clouds, and it created that V shape on the mirror ground. And I took this picture with the Hasselblad, and I'm like, look at that, a week later, and these tiny little tweaks kind of like put me back in the flow a little bit more into curiosity. And it started to clear the deck of that uncomfortable thing that we creatives have to do, especially if you're self-directed. The jobs, thankfully, I'm getting boards, I'm getting requests to direct. But deep down inside, I'm asking, like, what's my use? How am I of use to the world, to the universe, to everybody else? Am I supposed to be teaching? Am I supposed to be, having another event where it's music and getting everyone together? And I want to tell you honestly that these little tweaks really made a big difference.
It sounds like it 100% did. And Sam, again, as somebody as a creative and how you look at the world, obviously, and I wasn't even joking before, like you come across as a philosopher, you have a mindset, but at the same time, like you said, when so many creatives of us think that way, at the same time, we also have those other thoughts. What am I doing for the universe? I'm so glad you were willing to open up and say that, because that's so important, because all creatives go through that. Is this really, what am I doing here? Am I meant to teach? Am I meant to bring this out there? And it's so great that you're telling our audience that this is something that we all are going to go through, especially in our path. Our chosen path has so many ups and so many downs that we have that time to talk to ourselves and say, are we actually going down this right path? Try to philosophize. And we have so many different avenues to listen to. Like you said, you have three coaches, one's telling you this, somebody's telling you that, they're charging you more, you're going here, you're going there, you're pulled in 30 different directions at once. And you sometimes, like you said, you just got to disconnect and say, I can figure this out. Let me focus on what I want to do. And that's it. I love that you did that. And you said that because we can get pulled in so many directions in life right now that we're going to spin forever, essentially.
Yeah. I figured Chris is going to come in with some hammer, so I'm like waiting for it.
No, no, this is right up his alley. Where are you? Totally,
This is your time.
he's thinking about himself right now. He's like, "Am I going through that? What am I going through here?" It sounds a lot like Chris.
Be smoke coming out of my ears.
Exactly. No, but Sam, I mean, your walk of life, the way you think, is fantastic. Now, again, you just don't magically think like this one day. I'd love to hear, because you have experience in the business. You're doing great work now. We'll get into everything you're doing today. But I'd love to hear about that, because, again, you also have a multifaceted career. I love to kind of hear about what kind of started bringing you into the arts. Was there a time in your life, a moment in time that you said, this is the path I want to go down? Was it subtle? Was it kind of an epiphany that said, this is what I want to be, where I want to go? I'd love to hear your journey at the beginning.
Yeah, God, there being like a systems thinker, it's so interesting to try to be as useful as you can, as useful as I can be in a concise amount of time, because there's so many different models to kind of track what happened, right? Part of it is I don't really know what happened.
Mm.
I'm just made the story after the fact so that it would make sense to my tiny brain, Um, a lot of a lot of my family's story comes from kind of escape. We are in exile from Iran. We had to flee. So my dad, my mom, our history, the wealth, property, his career, everything was in a way stolen.
Mm.
And it's really different than immigration, which is like by choice. You're like, hey, let's go check out this new country. Here we're like, wow, we don't have much choice. Where can we go? And sitting there with the immigration officer, literally sweating as a 9-year-old, with kind of feeling like everything's on the line. And that, every family deals with that kind of a hit, which is really an identity attack. You were this person, you're no longer that person. And identity attacks are things that, like, if I wish therapists would talk about them more, because they keep
Sure.
telling you to change your attitude, but they don't realize that having your identity tweaked is one of the biggest kind of wounds that a human can take, right? So it's like a runner when they're injured. That's an identity attack, because you're like, what am I supposed to be now?
What do they do now? Yeah. Well, who are
Right.
you?
So I don't want to get into it too deep, because there's really fun stuff to talk about after the fact, after all that. But what it did was, in my particular family, what's really interesting is that um, my dad's uncle, his music is in the Library of Congress.
That's
We didn't
great.
even know this until later, because when my parents noticed that I was like really focusing on music, they did what they could to not encourage that. You know, yeah, like
Yeah.
to the, to like, hey, son, don't do this. It was very clear. It wasn't like a hint,
It was
right?
like,
Because they were worried. They were like,
of course.
coming in, how could they imagine that being a composer would be able to pay for your life?
Yeah.
So I'm going into genetics, I went into architecture, I kept like trying to find that feeling of connected, because I'll just kind of do a quick left turn. When I was a kid and I was writing music, I'm still untrained. I don't
Mhm.
know notes or anything like that, but I really felt like something was moving my hands. I was like, how did I learn that? Like, how did that scale just play out of my fingers?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Up, and I'm like, holy shit, like whoever that was, thanks.
Sure.
That was
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get to, witness yourself. So for me, when I say that it was really, fumbling down the stairs, it's really true. And coming out of school, it was like deep recession. Um, and like my cousin was out to dinner with someone. That someone was leaving their post at a post-production facility and saying, I'm looking for an animator. And my cousin goes, oh, my kid cousin knows computers. That's literally what he said.
That's wild.
Right. And so then I get an interview at the, um, at this post-production facility, which was like one of the top post-production facilities back then. It was called 525 Post. And within like 3 months, I become one of their animators. But how? Like, I didn't deserve that. And what I started to realize 20 years later was that we all have, certain gifts. Hello, camera. We all have certain gifts, and it's not really up to us what gifts we were given. And each of those gifts have kind of like a liability or a price. Like if you're really tall, it sucks to travel in coach, right? But you get paid. I don't know if you guys know this, but you get paid something like 3% more in salary per inch of height.
What are they? Maybe authoritative figure? They kind of see you as a leader. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
humans are designed for a biological response to hierarchy,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So, so then, if all of a sudden for absolutely nothing that I've done, people are projecting competence onto me, that's a lot of people end up with imposter syndrome.
Mm,
But all that's going on is someone has seen your potential and is willing to put money on the line.
yes.
But at that time, I haven't seen it. And so a lot of my career is when I show up like an idiot, kind of going, okay, well, this isn't going to last, is it? And then all of a sudden it becomes a career. So I became in motion graphics. I basically started one of the first motion graphics companies in LA. And I was like the secret weapon of like
Mm.
Day, working for Day quite a lot on, like Energizer and Nissan, and doing their logos and all that. I
Oh yeah.
animated
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
logos, Shell, Acura. I animated all those logos when I was a kid. Um, and then somehow someone said, do you want to direct this thing? And we were like, what thing is it? And it was an Eric Clapton music video.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a standard thing. Eric Clapton had teamed up with this British dance music. Actually, it was Jungle. It was in the 90s.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
and he had written a dance track. And he wasn't available for the music video. And the cover of the album, he was wearing a motorcycle helmet. Well, guess who played Eric Clapton in the video?
There you go. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
next thing you know, we rented like my business partner and I, his name is Mark Jeremias. We at the time we rented Snow Summit and took a bunch of pro snowboarders out, and I mounted a Super 8 camera to the binding of the snowboarder.
First GoPro right there. That's it.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we did all the compositing and the weird animation. There's a violently talented director animator named Brumby Boylston, real name. And, we found him, and he gave the piece a lot of personality. And then from there, I had a major, major dip where I made one of the mistakes, if you guys want to cut to that, which was that I had thought that whenever you're reinventing yourself, that you have to kind of go into the cave like an artist and like figure it out on your own and then like pop out and, declare yourself to everybody like, hey guys, I've become this now, and it was one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. And from essentially when I did that dip, to this day, 20 years later, I have to watch out for the poor habits of isolation and stuff that I took on because I had made that mistake. So instead of talking to people like you guys, talking, like going out into the community, I had gone solo and solitude, and it just didn't work for my makeup. It was the worst thing I could have done.
Are you kidding me? Because Sam, you're such at least to us knowing you here, you're such an outgoing guy. You have so much to give. I can only imagine you by yourself alone. I mean, you belong out there
Ah,
around people. You have so much to give. You have so much to share. But again, and you're right, because as artists, if you go into your solitude, it's so easy to fall down that kind of rabbit's hole, as so we call it, and just keep going down and down or getting lost in it. But I think as creators, community is so important for all of us to get out there to do shows like this or to talk with each other, to meet other great creators. Thinking we can just build from that on and on. And I can see you being at the forefront of that because of how you speak, who you are, your pedigree of work behind you. You should be out there amongst your peers speaking.
I appreciate that. I mean, there is weird stuff that, first of all, a lot of it is my own bias, right? Like at that time, I wasn't really getting mentored and I was like, trying to do it myself. And everyone is projecting competence onto me when I
Mhm.
had none. So then I believed them that I knew what I was doing and I really didn't.
That's the
And
worst
this,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, so the inward turn was like a really major, major mistake. And it created really awful, um, you know, uh, kind of misdirected ways for me to feel useful. Like, oh, let me rewire all the studio today. That
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
that'll make, that'll move things forward. And it's just not true. And so anyway, I had to keep my eye on that. And then when I got back into it, it was really based on this one. I have this uncle who's a retired industrialist. He doesn't have a creative bone in his body in our way, but he's crazy creative because he had 82 businesses.
100%.
And he designed like, storage for fluids, and he never even saw the thing he designed because it just went right to manufacture. So he's creative in this very kind of practical way.
Sure.
And one day he looks at me, and I was getting really bent out of shape because I'm directing, and then my clients were asking me to shoot stills, and the budgets were all over the place. And I didn't know. I was like, wait, stills? Like that is so backwards. I want to
Yeah.
create an app. I want to be at the forefront of tech. Like, what are you making me take pictures for? And he looks at me and he's like, Saam, I hate to break it to you, but you're not world class.
How'd
And I'm
that
like,
feel the first time you
I
heard
mean, I
that
knew that
one?
already, but I was like, and he's like, look, you're not getting hired to take photos. Anybody can take these photos.
Mhm.
And he's like, why are they hiring you? And he goes, the way that you're not world class is if you go on set right now and you treat people like shit, you're never getting hired again. But if you treat people like shit and you keep getting hired, that's because you're the only guy that
You're
can
the
do
only one who can do it.
it. Yeah,
Right.
right.
Very good if you're gonna do that.
Right.
Yep,
So he's like,
yep.
so you're not world class. So then why are they choosing you? And I started to see this model between the difference between having a skill, like let's say using Adobe Premiere is a skill,
Yeah.
but storytelling is a gift. And
Mhm.
or like let's say uh, creating suspense is a gift, because creating suspense is very difficult to learn,
100%.
right? So you have the same tools, but someone knows how to create suspense, someone knows how to create joy, someone knows how to really mess with your dopamine, and create exhilaration. Same tool. With photography, you can have the same lights, but someone makes you feel very sexy, and then that same model and light, and someone makes you feel very at ease, that image is going to look completely different.
Sure.
So it was the beginning of me understanding the difference between superpowers, kind of like what your gifts are
Hmm.
and what your skills are, and realizing that my website was all about like trying to prove that I could take a picture, but you had no idea what my personality or like bedside manners were. And and it really opened the door to me understanding that what I thought I was selling and what people were buying were completely different things. Does that
That's
make sense? So we're in that chapter now, you guys. I don't know.
that's not even, that doesn't make sense. That's 100% correct. It makes more than sense.
Yeah.
I love what you had to say, because people in the craft that know that, you're 100% right, because I love to use that word. It's on your website. Everybody go out there. We'll have the links in the descriptions below, but it's your superpower. Like you said, what makes you different between just a skill that anybody can learn and a gift that's out there. And it's such a big, and you're right, it's a completely different, because using a technical skill is so different than the gifts that only you have that make you truly stand out, than beyond just learning something that, again, talk about Adobe Premiere, or looking at a camera and saying, well, what f-stop should it be at? A 1.8, a 2.4, a 5? That's a technical skill, right? That's not a
Yeah.
superpower. But
I really like
so well put.
I really, really like what you said, though, and you gave great advice to our audience, people that are trying to make it in this industry, to not confuse motion with productivity. So when you
Yeah.
decide to rewire the room, what is it the most productive thing to do with your time? So that was amazing, and also learning your value, like what's my value for what I'm offering, and the learning from your mistakes is what I heard also. So, what it would be your advice to someone that wants to get into your line of business? What would they do? Would they do a trial and error? Would they learn from mentors? Is there a shortcut, or is everything a long cut and learning from your mistakes?
I think that I wish it was that simple, because like if you're a God believer, there's something called grace, right? I mean, being alive every day from a believer's standpoint is grace, because it's impossible for these molecules to have come together to begin with. You know what I mean? So even the capacity to feel pain, for like a true believer is a blessing. They're like, holy cow, I have the nervous system to experience these deep things. Um, Even for a materialist, like being alive is interesting. So from a materialist standpoint, it's kind of easy. You're like, well, there's specific steps to get into the door, and they do those steps. But from someone who, wasn't taught kind of systems thinking or whatever, maybe they think that this, learning like a skill like the F1.8 or the shortcuts in Final Cut Pro, like that's going to make a difference. And I think it will just lead to a very different path.
Mm.
In one of them, I think one would end up being the right hand of someone that has no technical skill.
Yeah.
And that's valuable too. You become their studio manager, and some people make a lot of money with that. And what's cool about that is you're not really stressed out.
Yeah. You're kind of right in the pecking order in the right place.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's good. There's nothing wrong. And if your nervous system is wired that way and you have those gifts, I mean, I need a studio manager. So cool,
there
right?
you go. Yep.
So the other side is seat of the pants people, right? Like that's more my game. And there's a little section on my website that says, which camera should I buy? Because like you're going to always get asked that, as if I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realized that even my advice was wrong, right? Because like I want to go get this camera. Hold on one sec.
No, please.
By the time you refer one camera, they're on to the next. The way things evolve, they become antiquated before the next one's out.
So this is a Hasselblad. Oh, you can't really see it because of the. Uh, It is a 100 megapixel camera, and it is violently capable. And then this is the Fuji, right?
Oh yeah.
And then this is the iPhone.
Yep.
So, you know, there's a lot of people that buy a camera based on like sensor specs, and they
Yeah.
and I think that if you're technically minded and you're doing close-up work, then that matters.
Yes.
And so then you're in alignment with noodly thinking. But if you're like, you shoot with feeling and it's all about the emotion and all that stuff, the pixels don't matter. So in a weird way, doing YouTube research for that person is actually possibly a very elegant way of not doing the real work.
You can fall down a rabbit hole doing that. You know that. I mean, you're
Totally.
lost for weeks and months at a time looking at everything.
So when we're kind of unobserved, then our research on YouTube could actually look very noble.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only noble for like a subset of the world. For the other world, it's a total distraction, you know?
Now,
Um,
Sam, was it always like this for you? What made you? Because again, we all went down these rabbit holes. We all wasted a lot of time. We all did these things. Was there a moment that made you say, "Wait a minute, I have to"? Because we probably all went down that. I'm sure you did. Were you always this way, or did you wake up at some point and say, "I need to really start
oh, no, no. You're
focusing"?
giving me way too much credit, because what you're doing, because you're so positive and that's your superpower, is that you're thinking that I've got it figured out. You don't realize that it's a daily struggle, but that
Yep.
because you give people, because you see the positive in people, then that version of them shows up. Like, so if you were a documentary filmmaker, your documentaries would look totally different
Absolutely. Yep.
than like someone who sees darkness.
Yes. 100%.
Could be the same damn interview,
Yeah.
you know, but the Joe documentary, the guy's going to come off as like having figured it all out. And some other person interviewing me is going to see like, you know, what a waste of time I've been to the world. I mean, it's totally true. So
It goes from here to here. I love that. That's not even a.
you don't even
a
see your
middle
own
ground.
bias, you know, and that's like that's the problem, you know, that's the funny part about your
Yeah.
super. So look, I'm telling you lessons that are part of my daily struggle, and they only make sense in the rearview mirror. Like one of the,
Sure.
so my most sold photograph, even though I only sell art like when people ask for it. I'm not, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not, I don't consider myself a fine art artist, but people ask for my images all the time, like the one back there. And my most sold photograph is this absolutely gorgeous photo of chairlifts
Hmm.
in snow, in a total whiteout, and there's no one on any of the chairlifts because no one was stupid enough to go skiing in this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that image was taken on an iPhone 5S, and we blow it up to 8 feet,
Yeah.
right? So like, is it
Wow.
really about the megapixels?
I like you said, a 5S too. We're going back. That would, that's yes, and just kind of taking it out.
Some of these people that
Yeah.
are listening to this weren't even born when the 5.
No, you're right. No, exactly right. 100% right. But you're right, because you felt a moment in time, and you were smart enough to capture it, as opposed to having to make sure you had the best equipment or make sure that was lined up. You're right about that.
Well,
100%.
no, see, once again, you projected reality. I mean, you projected positivity. That's not what's going on at all. First of all, I was
No,
like,
I got to interject. And I would say it's definitely perceived value. In a whiteout, the pixels when they blow up wouldn't be as much as a detailed picture when there's not a whiteout with the snow. It's just my interpretation. But with regard to being positive, I think it's a good thing because it's all your attitude towards life. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you could look at something and say it's negative or positive. Is the glass half full? Is it half empty? I mean, it really is just subject to interpretation.
yeah, I mean, but the problem is I'm mostly glass half empty if I've cluttered my mind
Mindset. Yeah.
with the physical world, with the material too much, which happens without me knowing. So I'll get seduced by the material world,
Mm.
and then I'll be deep into these things that look noble, like I'm gaining, you know, uh, I guess information. I don't know why the camera's not focused.
Oh, all right.
I'm gaining information, but ultimately I keep forgetting over and over. And you know, there's so many things we've touched up on. First of all, on the iPhone 5S image, we figured out a way to make the cable of the chairlift like very clearly identifiable.
Sure.
So it looks amazing.
Oh, nice.
Then, so like really you buy it. You're like, okay, this is a high resolution image. then I wanted to, I guess, talk about community a bit because, like, if you think about the French Impressionists and the painters and the salons of like that
Yeah.
period, these guys all worked in teams, and movements arose out of the teams. And but like specifically in Los Angeles, I'm always curious because of some people can have lack mentality. You don't have a lot of photographers or directors kind of
Yeah.
teaming up in that way, you know? They team up in different ways, but they don't team up like the salon ways of the old days. So that's funny, and I think it's a cultural difference. And as far as like people getting into, this business, um, I mean, even in the last 5 years since COVID, there has been such a reshaping of the
Yeah.
world, let alone when I
Yeah.
started, that in a weird way, I have to learn from your listeners, like what I need to do next, right? Because the kind of leverage to get into certain aspects of the business have changed. Like right now, younger creative directors at advertising agencies, they like working with people that have huge followings because it gets them
Yeah.
access. And in a weird way, access is more important. And even though I've heard really, horror stories around some of the influencers not being really great at execution or accountability, but now they have wranglers where that's changed and they have become good at it.
Mhm.
So I know I jumped all over the place, but um, it's a complex kind of landscape that really begins, I think, with doing whatever we can to be honest with how we were made. That's like knowing how we were made, what kind of help we need, what we're really good at, and not trying to be everything, I think is pretty crucial. And then I can tell you about the cool stuff that I've been asked to do over the last like couple of months that have nothing to do with what I'm trained to do.
No, I think both are equally as important. We'll get into
Tell
stuff,
us.
but I'll tell you, without all this, there is not the cool stuff that you've been asked to do, because this is the building blocks, the backbone of building the character of who you are, of who the artist is, which is so important because so many people, like you said, that especially breaking into our craft, have no idea. They have no identity. They don't know where they are. They're trying to do everything at once. So
Yeah.
all this stuff, like you said, is so important because they're going to see and learn from this, because so many people are shied away from it. And again, we're taught kind of not to listen to this kind of stuff. Go out there, do everything, figure this out. Don't really try to focus on where you want to be or who you are. Where you, like you said, especially in major industry hubs like New York or LA, you need to know who you are and how do you fit into the community. So, very well said on that note. But again, on to the next point, what are you working on now? Because at all the interesting things about you, about yourself, about your craft, you are doing some very, very cool and interesting and fun things that are going on right now today. And I know our listeners would love to hear more about that.
Um, uh, so, there's a lot of advice for photographers and filmmakers that whatever you're doing, just start with your own backyard.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that unbeknownst to me, I do that. Like, to fill the gas tank, I will go to the Sierra, go to Mammoth, go to the mountains quite a lot, go to the desert. Um, kind of do that stuff. But with LA specifically, which I find to be, and people are going to shoot me by saying this, but like you have to have a bit of willful blindness to think that LA is a beautiful city. Like they're driving down Lincoln Boulevard, like you really have to
I
have,
lived there quite a long time. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you have to be on like ketamine low dose or something to think that Lincoln is gorgeous. And it's only like 7 blocks from the beach, right? So what's interesting though is that I realized that over the years that I have become some kind of like a weird creative first responder to LA's disasters, right? Like
Wow.
like a few years ago, there was these absolutely massive waves just crashing into and breaking the piers and like doing pretty good damage. And I'm like, I should go fly over these waves and make a film.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I put the drone in slow motion mode and then filmed it. I color graded it this like really moody, kind of very silvery black and white, and totally risked losing the drone.
100%. And it goes
So
down to one thing
yeah,
goes wrong, it's over. Yeah.
like doing some pretty close calls and stuff. And then I came home, and nothing happens when, like, it's raining in LA now. Nothing happens. So I was like, oh, I wonder what piece of music is going to come out of my fingers with this. So I'm looking at the waves as I got the piano out. Man, I love this thing. It's so pretty, and it's just for me. Like, I
Yeah,
just did
yeah.
fill my own gas tank, right? Then uh a few years after that, country started to lock down.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Yeah.
director calls me from Norway, and he's like, hey, you want to do a secret mission and go to South Africa to film a commercial together? And I'm like, yo, they're closing the world.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I was like, okay.
All right. Yeah.
So as everyone is shutting down, we fly to New York. We're holding the tickets to South Africa in our hands. And he looks at me and he goes, should we do it? Will you have my back? I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Flying to South Africa, and every day they slip a new piece of paper in under the door,
Hmm.
telling us to reduce the number of people on set because of the new regulation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what's going on. So
Sure.
started out at 250 because we were going to rebuild this like whole food market in Asia with all
Yeah.
the neon lights and everything. Big vision, right? That's why they filmed down there, to save money. He gets a note. He's like, sorry, your max is 100. Next morning, coffee. He's rewriting the script right in front of me,
Yeah.
right? 50 people, 20 people, 25, 10 people. Finally, the final shoot was one guy on a rooftop cooking alone, with a drone shot of him
Wow.
lifting the lid of the barbecue and the thing
Coming out.
coming out.
Yeah.
And I had promised myself that I'd wanted like an interesting birthday, and I was going to stay in South Africa,
Hmm.
but it was lockdown. So
Yep.
next thing you know, I had to change my flight, and now I'm sitting in a middle seat flying back to JFK with everybody coughing.
Everybody's like, yeah,
And I'm like, this is not good.
not good, especially at that time. I mean, that was
Yeah. So, but then I realized, holy shit, I'm going to be in LA alone, and it's lockdown. It was literally like 5 days into lockdown.
Yeah.
I think they locked us down like March 15th or
Yeah.
something.
I was out there for that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and my birthday is the last week in March. So in the flight, I email about 30 friends and family. I'm like, hey guys, I want to have a birthday party and you're invited. And I'm like, I'm going to come visit you on lockdown, come to your window, and I'm going to take a picture of you.
Yeah.
So that like my birthday is
Oh,
like,
wow.
going
Something. Yeah.
around and visiting
Yeah.
everybody.
Yep.
So some people lived in condos, obviously, and some people, hard to get to places. I basically packed a bunch of cameras, plotted a course through LA,
That's great.
and I have this video and this photo shoot of my friends and family in portraits holding up birthday signs from behind the window.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it went fully viral. LA Times picked it up, Esquire magazine
Yes.
picked it up, and it was called Touchless Birthday. And that was kind of like my, kind of second LA disaster thing.
Yeah.
And then the most recent one was the LA fires, and I checked in on a friend of mine who lives in Malibu in the hills, actually near Topanga. Didn't hear anything back. And on, I think, like January 7th or 8th or something, she sent me this beautiful voice note. She speaks very poetically.
Mhm.
And she's like, I've lost everything and all the paintings are gone. And I really miss the land and all this stuff. And I got absolutely covered in goosebumps.
Yeah.
And I picked up the phone and called her, and I was like, do you mind if I make something with this? And she said, sure. I hang up the phone and I start Googling helicopter services. And the next morning I was up in a helicopter filming the disaster.
Oh, wow.
And at the same time that I called her, I called a friend of mine named Stephanie, the woman who lost her home. Her name is Rana Wilson. I called a friend of mine named Stephanie Lenahan, who kind of knows the crazy way that I work. And I'm like, you got to come over. I got to record some violin parts. So at the same time that we were, playing Rana's voice, I would play it like a little something on the,
Yeah.
and I would have Stephanie mimic that on the violin, except I would turn around and I was like, okay, now do it as if you're pulling the bow out of cement, you know, or like slam the bow onto the violin and let
Yeah.
it bounce, things like that to kind of match Rana's cadence. And basically in a matter of a week made a short film about the fires, about
Wow.
the losses called Almost Zero. It was premiered on Nowness, which is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's like accepted to 4 film festivals.
Oh, good. Good. It's fantastic.
So, and then the last project or the current project, which is non-commercial, is I'm only giving you the non-commercial stuff. Um, is that I called a friend of mine to get advice on some music licensing because I'm new to that.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Sure. Sure.
And I'm like, hey, I made this thing, and how would you do it? And she's like, you know what? There's a project that's on my table. You should call someone I know at the National Gallery. I was like, the National Gallery? That's the government's art museum, basically. She's like, yeah, call the National Gallery. So I call them up and they're like, yeah, we have this photo show coming up. I'm like, okay. And they're like, could you design a surround sound piece of music that encapsulates the 8 images in the photo show?
That's great.
I'm like, what? Man, it's the dreamy thing. So I'm writing, and a lot of the photos that they're featuring are from LA.
That's
So I'm
great.
going to the different areas in LA, recording very high quality stereo sounds of the city, and I'm building this soundscape to these 8 images in surround sound for them.
That's
The
beautiful.
show, I think, goes live in January.
Wow.
Oh, that's great. We have to have you back
Dude.
on when that comes out. That's beautiful. Really. That's fantastic.
Goosebumps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
stoked.
I love your creative process. I mean, you completely immerse yourself in your art and in your world, and I think that's just inspiring and so amazing that you're doing that. You truly are an artist. The way you look at the world, the way you look at your own
Gosh.
craft is really fantastic.
Oh God, I hope I measure up to your vision of me one day. I think like for people
Yeah.
who can consider themselves more divine directed, I'm realizing that then my goal is to kind of clear that channel, like get rid of resentments,
Yep.
get rid of preconceived notions, and kind of deal with the discomfort of being taken over by something. So, like I Robin Hood from my commercial work into these other projects.
Sure.
So the income comes from directing and photography.
Yes.
And this over the shoulder thing, which is such a niche for me, where I'm essentially sneaking in to capture the stills.
Yeah.
Like there's an A-list director directing. They don't want to give you any time. So I've become very, very good at that. And the income from those projects go into my concerts, into, I threw a concert at a cathedral in LA. This is all funded by my commercial work.
Yeah.
And the Almost Zero film was, all of these things come from that. So as far as like who I've become, because you kind of asked that in a weird way, I guess where I am now is kind of being more honest about the fact that I am divine driven, that ultimately I have the free will to screw up my own life, meaning like it's on me to screw it up. I've been given the gift. Now it's on me to keep turning away from it and pretending it's not there. And so that's a really weird responsibility. And so I try to fight these bad habits every day to kind of clear that channel,
Yes.
kind of allow for being taken over by these ideas, and then having the kind of nausea of, am I choosing the right idea, right? So that's kind of who I've become for this chapter, you know.
I mean, I got to say something because I keep hearing the same kind of through line here. Do you consider yourself a spiritual being, have a human experience? And with this reinventing yourself, do you feel like that's something like your purpose in life is to do all these different things that you do within the industry?
I mean, we all, kind of consciousness, existence, all this stuff. You don't have to be curious about that, like I think in a weird way, I have a friend of mine who was diagnosed with something called uh God, what was it? I gotta fuck, I almost want to text him. Oh, hypomaniac, right? So
Okay.
or hypermaniac or something like that.
Wow.
Basically, it's someone who doesn't have lows in his life.
Mm.
Right? This guy doesn't have an existential bone in his body. But he's so kind. He's always present. He kind of saved his wife from depression, and he doesn't go to church. Like he's just not that way. I just don't think this is what you need. But I think that if people are wired this way, then they need to be, do the practices for this kind of wiring, like for me, I have to move my body, otherwise the energy can turn against itself. So like before coming on this podcast, I was lifting heavy at the gym, got to do it.
Thanks.
And
Great.
so there's an aspect of the gym being the church. So does that answer your question, Chris? I just think like comes down to the honesty.
Well, I didn't mean church. I'm actually not coming from yeah, I'm not coming from like a religious standpoint at all. It's actually more like a spiritual, like, do you feel like you're driven? Do you have a purpose? Is there something greater than you that's driving you and sort of making you reinvent yourself with regard to the industry and doing all these different aspects of it?
Yeah, man, it's such a big fat question. And honestly, I'm really just in this chapter, right? In this chapter, with the level of onion skinning that I've done so far in this endless onion skin situation, like in this chapter, that's what it feels like. It feels like, like throwing religion got a bad rap, but all it was trying to do was describe something that's very difficult to describe. In this podcast, in a weird way, I'm trying to describe the same damn thing.
Yep.
And it gets a bad rap, right? So whatever people want to call it, that idea of, getting blown open by something bigger than yourself. Like right now, there's a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes, and they're finding out that non-speaking autistic children seem to exhibit telepathic powers, and they all meet in this place called the Hill. They've named it the Hill, which is where they can all communicate nonverbal.
Yeah.
I mean, and that fits with a lot of like, there's a Nobel physicist who went into theory of consciousness, and and even the telepathy podcast are getting to a place where they realize that consciousness pops up as humanity, and then it's trying to learn through all of our thoughts. Like that's a really fun model for me. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't care. I think it's cool. Like that's cool.
It's cool.
So then if I'm believing that,
Very
I'm like,
cool.
okay, as this like pop-up store of consciousness in life in this game, what is my fucking player trying to do? What is this
Exactly right.
avatar trying
Exactly
to do?
right.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
And so then if I'm like trying to learn for the collective, what does it want to see through my eyes and stuff? So then if I'm not doing that gift, I'm like letting the whole group down, I'm letting the whole mesh down, the whole like mesh of us. So it's kind of like a really cool way to feel responsible. And I don't do it very well. I'm just trying to do it.
I think you do that completely well, and I'm
You
telling
answered
you,
it
man,
great.
really,
Yes.
speaking to you has been phenomenal. I can't believe we're already way past the
Oh,
hour mark,
damn it,
which
we're
is
over.
fascinating.
Oh,
But
wow.
I have to say, look, Chris and I are going to be in LA in November. We got to do one live in person. If you're going to be out there, we got to
Sure.
link up. It'd be great because this was fantastic, really having you on the show. Now, you not only are you an incredibly talented individual, but your dynamic, your lifestyle, your thoughts, really fascinating. I know our fans are going to want to learn more about you. So before we get going, any social media websites, where can our fans learn or reach out to you? Any kind of Instagram handles or websites they can learn more about you on?
Yeah, on all social media, I'm at Saam Gabbay, which is SaamGabbay. And if you click on the menu item on my website, you get into some of the noodly stuff, like what camera should I buy, some of
Yes.
the weird advice, and then there's even a superpowers page where, because I'm asked to run these superpowers seminars where we have these discussions and we try to help people
Cool.
find what their gifts are and to get closer to being themselves. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So, and I put those on locally. I just did it for a bunch of executives in LA. So you can get a hold of me that way, and I'm, on Instagram, active on Instagram.
Excellent. We'll make sure to have all the links in the description below. everybody. Saam Gabbay, really, you are fantastic for all
Appreciate
our
you.
brands out there, 100%. And make sure, remember, all of you, you can now see us on Roku TV,
Right on.
courtesy of the Red Coral Universe. Of course, you can see this episode on Fossum TV, of course, along our YouTube channel, the Live Your Dreams podcast, and in your gym, in the car, wherever you listen to your podcast. You could, of course, hear us on iHeartRadio, along with Audible, Spotify, and, of course, Apple Podcasts. You can hear this amazing episode, be inspired, get inspired, and season 6, when we are live, of course, is sponsored by Laowa Anamorphic Lenses. Why can't your podcast look cinematic? Get out there. Make sure
Nice.
it looks the best it can get when you're on camera, when you're live. Hopefully in November, you'll be able to see an episode with Saam shot in Laowa Anamorphic Lenses. They are clearly beautiful. We are so proud being the dreamers, because the dreams make the world go round. For the Live Your Dreams podcast, I'm Joe Gawalis.
Where's Victor?
Saam Gabbay, thank you so much. You have been fantastic. All the scripts will be in the description, but in the link below. Saam, thank you so much, and we will see everybody next week.